The great station called Nova Ring floated like a silver circle in the dark space between the stars. It was home to thousands of beings from many worlds. Traders, explorers, and scientists came here every day to exchange goods, knowledge, and stories. The station was always bright with colors, sounds, and life. Ships came and went through glowing ports, and lights ran along the long walls like flowing rivers. In this busy place lived Lyra, a quiet alien woman from a planet named Vereen. She worked in the lower decks of the station, where the air smelled of metal and oil. Her job was to repair drones, cargo pods, and machines that others had broken. It was not a grand job, but she did it with care and skill. Lyra was not like most others on the station. Her skin had a faint blue glow that shimmered softly when she moved. Her eyes reflected light like calm water under the moon. Many people found her appearance strange. Some laughed at her glow, calling her names or whispering cruel jokes when she passed. Others looked away, pretending she did not exist. Even her own kind, the Vereen, often avoided her. On her home planet, people with glowing skin were called luminants, and they were treated as cursed. Long ago, Vereen priests said that the glowing ones carried the sadness of the world in their blood. Many believed it, and those born with the glow were cast out. Lyra had been one of them. When she was young, she lived in a small village near the sea. Children threw stones at her, saying she would bring bad luck. Her own parents sent her away when she was 12, saying they could not keep her. She had left her home with nothing but a small piece of glass she had found on the beach. That glass, shining like her skin, was the only thing she kept with her even now. Years later, she found a place on Nova Ring. No one wanted to live in the lower decks, and no one cared much who worked there. Lyra did her job quietly and avoided trouble. The noise of machines and the hum of engines were her only company. Still, the whispers followed her. When she walked through the corridors, other workers turned to look. Some pointed. Some smiled with mockery. "The ghost from Vereen," one of them said once. "Glowworm," another laughed. Lyra pretended not to hear. She kept her head down and worked harder. But at night, when she returned to her small room, the silence pressed heavily on her heart. She often sat near the small window watching the stars. They were the only things that made her feel less alone. One morning, the station's alarm sounded across the docks. A new transport ship had arrived from Earth. Humans were not rare on Nova Ring, but they were not common either. Most worked for the Earth Alliance, building or maintaining systems on faraway colonies. Lyra was fixing a loader machine when she saw him for the first time. The new human engineer walked into the repair bay with a group of officers. He looked around, studying the place carefully. His name, she later learned, was Tom. He was tall, with calm brown eyes and a tired but kind face. He carried a tool bag on his shoulder and spoke softly to those around him. When the officers left, Tom stayed behind to inspect the gravity regulator. Lyra continued working on her broken loader, trying to ignore the noise above her. But the loader's main joint was stuck, and she could not lift the heavy metal plate to reach it. Her arms trembled with effort. A few other workers stood nearby, watching with amusement. One of them whispered loudly, "Look, even her glow can't move it." The others laughed. Lyra kept working, pretending not to hear, though her heart ached. Then she felt someone beside her. A quiet voice said, "Let me help." She looked up. Tom stood there, holding the edge of the plate. He lifted it easily, and together they moved it aside. Lyra blinked in surprise. No one had ever offered her help before, not like this. "Thank you," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, almost shy. Tom smiled. "No problem. This thing's heavier than it looks." He handed her a wrench and waited while she adjusted the joint. When she finished, she tested the loader. The machine came alive with a steady hum. The other workers, seeing what happened, walked away silently. Tom wiped his hands on a cloth and nodded. "Nice work," he said. Lyra looked down, unsure how to reply. People usually left after helping once. But Tom stayed, checking other machines, asking her about the station systems. He didn't seem bothered by her glowing skin or the whispers that followed her. Over the next few days, Tom kept returning to the repair bay. Sometimes he came to work on the station's gravity panels, and sometimes he brought small tools or snacks to share. He spoke to Lyra as if she were no different from anyone else. At first, she didn't know what to say to him. She wasn't used to talking much. But Tom didn't mind the silence. He often told stories about Earth, about blue oceans, forests, and birds that sang at sunrise. Lyra listened quietly. The way he spoke made her imagine places she had never seen. One day, Tom brought a small device that played soft earth music. He placed it near her workstation, and a gentle tune filled the air. The sound was warm and full of life. Lyra stopped working for a moment to listen. "This music," she said slowly, "it feels like light." Tom smiled. "That's a nice way to put it." From that day, whenever he visited, he brought new music. The repair bay, once filled only with the sounds of metal and engines, began to feel alive. Even some of the workers who used to laugh started listening from afar. Still, not everyone was pleased. A few supervisors whispered that Tom was wasting time with the glowing one, but Tom ignored them. He kept helping Lyra with repairs, teaching her about human tools and systems. One evening, when most workers had left, Lyra stayed behind to fix a drone. A sharp piece of metal slipped and cut her hand. She gasped softly as blue blood oozed out and glowed under the light. Tom, who had just walked in, saw what happened. Without hesitation, he grabbed a small med kit and gently wrapped her hand. "You should be more careful," he said kindly. Lyra watched him in silence. No one had ever touched her without fear before. Most people avoided even standing too close. Yet this human didn't seem afraid at all, she whispered. "My glow. It scares others." Tom shook his head. "It doesn't scare me." She looked at him with wide eyes. "On my world, people like me are called cursed. They say our light brings sorrow." Tom finished wrapping her hand and met her gaze. "Then they're wrong. Your light isn't a curse. It's beautiful." The word struck her like a quiet storm. Beautiful. She had heard many names in her life, but never that one. For a moment, she forgot the pain in her hand. She looked down, unable to speak. Tom stood and smiled. "Rest for a while. I'll finish fixing the drone." He turned to work, humming a tune from his small device. Lyra sat there silently, watching him. The glow of her skin reflected off the metal walls, mingling with the warm light from his tools. That night, when she returned to her room, Lyra could not stop thinking about what he said. She sat by her small window and looked at the stars. For the first time in many years, the silence around her felt softer. She touched her wrapped hand and whispered to herself, "Beautiful." The word felt strange but comforting. Somewhere deep inside, something began to change. A small spark that she had long forgotten. Days passed quietly on Nova Ring after that small moment in the repair bay. Yet something had changed inside Lyra. The human's words kept returning to her again and again. "Your light isn't a curse. It's beautiful." That single line played in her mind whenever she worked or sat alone. She had spent her whole life hiding her glow, covering her hands with gloves, keeping her hood up, and avoiding bright lights. But now, she caught herself leaving her sleeves a little shorter and letting her skin show. When Tom came back to the lower deck the next morning, she found herself smiling without meaning to. He noticed it and smiled back. The repair bay had always been a dull place filled with smoke, oil, and noise, but when Tom entered, it felt lighter. He brought stories, laughter, and sometimes strange little things from Earth that made Lyra curious. One day he brought her a small round candy wrapped in shining red foil. She looked at it like it was a gem. "It's just sweet," he said with a laugh. "You eat it," she hesitated. "Eat the whole thing?" Tom nodded. "Not the wrap, just the inside." Lyra unwrapped it carefully, placed the candy on her tongue, and her eyes widened. "It melts," she said, surprised. Tom laughed. "Yeah, that's chocolate." She nodded slowly, letting the taste fill her mouth. "It's warm and soft. Like memory." Tom blinked, not expecting her words to sound so poetic. He smiled gently. "You have a nice way of describing things." Their friendship grew quietly, like a small flame hidden from the wind. Each day, Tom found some excuse to visit her workshop, to check the gravity panels, to deliver parts, or just to talk. Lyra didn't understand why a human would spend his time with someone like her, but she no longer asked. She liked listening to his voice. Sometimes they worked side by side in silence, only the hum of machines around them. Other times Tom spoke about his home planet. He told her about the blue skies of Earth, about the rain that smelled like soil, and about the sea that stretched beyond sight. Lyra imagined those places in her mind, the sound of waves, the color of forests, and the wind against her face. "I think I would like to see Earth," she said once. Tom smiled. "You'd like the oceans. They glow sometimes at night when small creatures move in the water." She looked at him with wonder. "They glow? Like me?" He nodded. Exactly like you. That simple thought made her heart lift. For the first time, she didn't feel strange. She felt part of something beautiful. But not everyone on Nova Ring liked what they saw between the human and the glowing alien. The other workers began whispering louder now. Whenever Tom walked into the bay, voices hushed and eyes followed him. When he left, laughter and cruel comments filled the air again. One worker, a tall man named Ren, liked to mock Lyra the most. "Look at her pretending to be special," he said one day as Lyra passed by. "Do you think he really likes that blue glow of yours? Maybe he just needs extra light to work." The others laughed. Lyra kept walking without turning back, but the words cut deep. She went to her small cabin that night and sat in the dark. The glow of her skin reflected off the walls. For the first time in weeks, she wished she could turn it off. The next morning, she avoided looking at Tom. She worked silently, finishing her tasks quickly. Tom noticed something was wrong. "Lyra," he said softly, "did I do something?" She shook her head. "No, it's not you." "Then what is it?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then whispered, "They talk. They say things. I do not want to cause trouble for you." Tom sighed. "Lyra, people will always talk. They don't understand. But that's their problem, not yours." She looked at him with sad eyes. "It is easy for you to say that. You are human. People respect humans here." Tom nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I respect you." She blinked. "Why?" he smiled. "Because you don't stop trying. Even when everyone pushes you down, you fix what's broken. You keep going. That's strength, Lyra." She looked away, feeling heat rise to her face. Her glow brightened slightly, and Tom smiled at the sight. That evening, something unexpected happened. A small power failure hit the lower decks, shutting off the main lights. The only light that remained came from the emergency panels, and from Lyra herself. Her skin glowed softly, filling the room with calm blue light. The other workers stopped and stared. Tom, holding a scanner, looked around and said calmly, "Good thing we have our own light source." Some of the workers chuckled nervously, unsure how to react. Lyra smiled faintly for the first time in front of them. Her glow reflected off the metal walls, turning the dull workshop into something that looked almost magical. For a few minutes, no one mocked her. The glow surrounded everyone, and they worked together to restart the systems. When the lights finally came back on, Lyra felt something shift. Maybe things could change even a little. Later that week, the station commander called for a full inspection of the repair sections. Officers moved through the corridors, checking machines and workers. Lyra was busy cleaning a power conduit when the commander arrived with Tom beside him. "This is the lower deck?" the commander asked. "It looks cleaner than last month." Tom smiled slightly. "Lyra runs it. She keeps the system stable." The commander glanced at her, frowning. "The glowing one?" "Yes, sir," Tom said, his tone steady. "She's one of the best technicians here." The commander didn't reply. He nodded once and moved on, but his silence said enough. When they were gone, Lyra looked at Tom. "You spoke for me," she said softly. He shrugged. "You earned it." That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. The stars outside her window seemed brighter than usual. For the first time, she allowed herself to think of a future that wasn't filled with fear or shame. The next morning, Tom arrived early. He carried a new project plan for upgrading the drone systems. "We'll need extra hands," he said. "You up for it?" Lyra nodded. Yes. They worked through the day, building and testing new drones that could move faster and repair damage during emergencies. Tom taught her new programming tricks, and she surprised him with clever design ideas. The two laughed when one of the drones flew straight into a wall. "Too eager," Tom said with a grin. "Like you," Lyra replied, smiling shyly. When the shift ended, Tom handed her a small chip. "It's a collection of Earth music," he said. "You can play it in your cabin." Lyra took it carefully. "Thank you." That night she played the music. Soft sounds filled her small room, instruments and voices unlike anything from her world. The melodies carried warmth and peace. She lay on her bed, eyes half closed, imagining the forests and oceans Tom had described. For the first time in years, she felt calm. But calm didn't last long on Nova Ring. A rumor began spreading across the station that the human engineer had fallen for the glowing alien. Some said it was shameful, others called it strange. Lyra heard the whispers every time she walked the halls. It made her heart heavy again. Tom noticed the change in her eyes. One evening, he found her sitting alone near the coolant tanks, her head resting against the wall. "They're talking again, aren't they?" he asked quietly. She didn't look at him. "It doesn't matter." "Yes, it does," he said. "You shouldn't let them make you feel small." She looked up at him. "You don't understand. For me, it has always been like this. No matter where I go, someone laughs." Tom knelt beside her. "Then let them laugh. One day they'll stop. You'll show them who you are." She gave a weak smile. "Who am I, then?" He smiled gently. "You're the one who fixes what everyone else breaks." Lyra's heart softened. The glow around her brightened, lighting both their faces. The air between them felt calm and quiet. Tom stood up and offered his hand. "Come on, let's get back to work before they think we're lazy." Lyra laughed softly and took his hand. Together they walked back to the repair bay side by side. For the first time in her life, Lyra didn't feel like a shadow hiding from the world. She felt seen. And though she didn't yet understand what was forming between her and Tom, she knew one thing. The light inside her no longer felt like a curse. It felt alive. The friendship between Lyra and Tom grew stronger with every passing day. In the cold and noisy repair decks of Nova Ring, they had built something rare: warmth. Whenever they worked together, the air seemed lighter, and even the hum of machines sounded softer. But outside their small world, whispers had started to move like wind through metal halls. People talked in mess rooms, corridors, and control chambers. They said that the human engineer was spending too much time with the glowing alien woman from the lower decks. Some laughed about it. Others spoke with sharp tones, saying it was strange and shameful. Lyra didn't want to believe the rumors were real. She told herself it didn't matter, that she had work to do. Yet she could feel the change. When she walked past groups of workers, voices went quiet. When she entered the lift, people turned away. The silence around her now had weight. Tom noticed too. He saw how others looked at them when they passed, how some workers stopped talking when he entered a room. Still, he didn't care. He had never been someone who followed the crowd. To him, what mattered was simple. Lyra was kind, brave, and intelligent. She deserved respect, not mockery. One afternoon, while repairing a cargo arm near the docking bay, Tom found himself working beside Ren, the same worker who had once mocked Lyra. Ren was loud and proud, always trying to impress his friends. "So, Tom," Ren said with a smirk, "is it true what they say? You're spending all your free time with the glowing one?" Tom tightened a bolt without looking up. "Her name is Lyra," he said calmly. Ren chuckled. "Right, Lyra, the shining ghost of the lower decks. Must be nice having your own lamp during power failures." Tom looked at him sharply. "You think mocking her makes you strong?" Ren raised an eyebrow. "Relax, I'm just joking." Tom stood, wiping grease from his hands. "She's better at this job than half the people here, including you. Maybe try learning something from her instead of laughing." Ren's smile faded and he walked away without replying. The other workers nearby pretended to be busy. After that day, fewer people laughed openly, but the whispers didn't stop. They just moved deeper into the shadows. Meanwhile, Lyra was unaware of the full storm building around her. She was too busy helping Tom with the drone upgrade program. The two spent long hours checking flight data, adjusting engines, and testing control systems. It was tiring work, but they enjoyed it. One evening, as they watched a drone glide smoothly through the air, Tom smiled. "We did it. It's faster than the last one." Lyra nodded proudly. "It listens better too," Tom chuckled. Like a good student, Lyra tilted her head. "Then you are the teacher?" He grinned. "Maybe we both are. You teach me how to stay calm when things break." Her eyes softened. "Machines are easier than people. They don't lie." Tom looked at her quietly for a moment. "You're right. But people can change, Lyra. Sometimes they just need to see something real first." Their calm was soon interrupted. The next morning, Lyra was called to the supervisor's office. When she entered, Commander Roven, the station's leader, stood beside Tom. His face was serious. "Lyra," he said in a firm tone, "we have been hearing rumors about you and Engineer Tom. People are saying unprofessional things. It's causing unrest among the crew." Lyra's hands tightened. "I have done nothing wrong, sir." Roven nodded slightly. "I know, but appearances matter. The station must remain orderly. It would be better if you two limited your time together outside of official work." Tom spoke before she could answer. "With respect, Commander, that's unfair. She's done excellent work. We collaborate because it helps the station. Rovan turned to him. I understand, but this is not Earth. Here we have many species, many traditions. You must be careful not to create tension. Lyra's voice was quiet but steady. Do you mean I am the problem, Commander? Rovan sighed. No, Lyra, but you draw attention. Some find it difficult. She nodded slowly, hiding her pain. I understand, sir. After the meeting, she walked away without looking at Tom. He followed her down the corridor. Lyra, don't listen to him. You did nothing wrong, he said softly. She stopped and looked at him with tired eyes. Maybe he is right. Maybe I bring trouble to those who stand near me. Tom shook his head. No, you didn't bring trouble. You brought light. Lyra wanted to believe him, but the old fear inside her began to return. She remembered the faces from her village, the way people had looked at her like she was a mistake. It was happening again, only on a larger stage. That night, she sat in her room with the lights off. The music Tom had given her played softly, but she barely heard it. She looked at her glowing hands and whispered to herself, why does my light always make others turn away? The next few days were harder. Some of the workers who once smiled at her now avoided her completely. Others left her messages that said cruel things. Someone even scratched her name into the wall of the bay with the word curse beside it. Tom found her staring at the wall one evening, her expression blank. He clenched his fists. Who did this? She shook her head. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, he said, his voice sharp with anger. You don't deserve this, she looked at him. You cannot fight everyone, Tom, let it go. He took a deep breath, trying to calm down. I just don't understand how they can't see what I see. Lyra's voice trembled. What do you see? He looked straight at her. Someone brave. Someone who keeps shining even when the world tells her not to. Her glow brightened slightly. She turned away, hiding her face. You should not say things like that, she whispered. Why not? He asked gently. Because it hurts when I believe them, she said quietly. Tom didn't answer. He wanted to tell her that he meant every word, but he knew it would only make things harder for her now. The next morning, the two worked in silence. Yet even silence between them felt full of unspoken words. Lyra tried to focus on her tools, but her hands shook slightly. At lunchtime, she sat alone. Usually, Tom would sit beside her, but he had been called to another deck for a gravity system check. The cafeteria was crowded and noisy. When she entered, voices hushed again. She took a seat in the corner, trying not to look at anyone. After a few minutes, Ren and two others sat nearby, whispering and laughing. Maybe she glows because she's hiding something. Dangerous, one said. Maybe the human's under her spell, another added. Lyra stood quietly and walked out before they could say more. Her heart felt heavy, but she refused to let them see her cry. Later that evening, as she returned to her quarters, she found something unexpected. On her door was a small metal flower made from machine parts. A note was attached, written in simple words, "Don't hide your light." It saved me more than once. She smiled softly. It was from Tom. That small gesture gave her strength. The next day, she went back to work with her head high. She greeted everyone with calm politeness and focused on her tasks. Slowly, a few workers began to see her differently. Some stopped whispering. Some even asked her for help. Tom noticed the change and smiled. See, they're learning. She shook her head lightly. Maybe they're just tired of talking. He laughed. Either way, that's progress. Their laughter echoed through the bay, mixing with the soft hum of machines. Yet beneath the calm surface, the tension on Nova Ring still lingered. The rumors had reached even the upper command levels. Some officers questioned whether humans and Vereen should be working so closely. It wasn't open hatred, just quiet, polite disapproval. But destiny had its own plan. A great test was coming, one that would change everything for both of them. For now, though, as the lights dimmed and the day ended, Lyra sat near the window of her small cabin, watching the stars. She remembered Tom's words. You brought light. She looked at her glowing hands and whispered softly, Then I will not hide any more. Outside, the stars of Nova Ring shone bright, unaware of the small spark that was about to become a fire. The calm that had settled over the lower decks of Nova Ring did not last long. One morning, alarms blared across the station, shaking the metal floors and echoing through the corridors. Red warning lights flashed as the intercom crackled with the voice of the station's security chief. Attention all personnel. Meteor activity detected. Shields compromised. Evacuate non-essential areas immediately. Panic rippled through the station. Workers and passengers rushed toward evacuation pods, shouting and pushing in the narrow corridors. Machines beeped urgently as doors automatically sealed and gravity systems stuttered under the sudden stress. In the middle of the chaos, Lyra stayed calm. Her glowing skin lit the darkened corridors as she moved quickly between broken drones and damaged panels. Sparks flew from a power conduit she was fixing, but she worked tirelessly, ignoring the shouts around her. "Lyra, you need to leave now." A nearby worker called, fear in his voice. She shook her head. "I cannot. The systems will fail if I leave." As meteors slammed against the station's outer shields, emergency lights flickered. Parts of the docking bay were damaged, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Workers scrambled to save valuable equipment, but confusion slowed them. Tom arrived shortly after, running toward her with a toolkit in hand. His brow was furrowed, and he shouted over the alarms. "Lyra, we have to stabilize the main reactor. If it fails, the entire station could collapse." She turned to him, eyes bright with determination. "Then we stabilize it, together." Tom nodded. The two of them raced toward the reactor chamber, dodging falling debris and sparks that danced like fireflies. The corridors were nearly empty. Most personnel had fled to safety. Their footsteps echoed against the steel walls, blending with the wailing alarms. When they reached the reactor, they found it badly damaged. Cooling pipes were cracked, circuits were exposed, and the central energy core emitted a low hum that sounded like it could explode at any moment. Tom checked the console. "If we can reroute the power and repair the cooling system manually, we might save it. But we only have minutes." Lyra touched the glowing core, feeling its heat pulse against her skin. She drew a deep breath and nodded. "I can guide the drones. They will hold things in place while we work." The repair drones buzzed to life, responding to her commands. They carried heavy panels, connected circuits, and moved cables that were impossible for humans to lift. The blue light of her skin reflected off the metal, illuminating the chamber like a small sun in the dark. "Be careful," Tom said, looking at her closely. "I will follow your lead." Together, they worked as one. Lyra's glow guided the drones with precision, while Tom handled the more delicate manual repairs. Sparks flew and metal bent under stress, but they did not stop. Every moment counted, and they could hear the distant crashes as meteors struck the station's outer hull. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the chamber. A power conduit burst, sending flames toward them. Tom jumped back, pulling Lyra out of the immediate danger. Her glow brightened instinctively, lighting the path ahead and helping them avoid the flames. "We need to divert the coolant through the secondary pipes," Lyra shouted, pointing to a damaged panel. Tom moved quickly, following her instructions. They lifted heavy pipes and rerouted the flow, sealing leaks with makeshift clamps. The reactor's hum began to stabilize, though it still threatened to overload. A second explosion rocked the station, and part of the ceiling collapsed. Dust and debris filled the air. Tom and Lyra shielded their heads but continued to work. Each second was critical. "Almost there," Lyra said, her voice firm despite the chaos. "We need to reset the energy matrix in sequence. One wrong step and the core could blow." Tom nodded. "I trust you. Lead." With steady hands, Lyra guided the repair drones to hold the panels in place while Tom carefully connected the energy lines. Sparks flew as circuits reconnected. The reactor core pulsed wildly, threatening to erupt, but Lyra's glow seemed to calm the chaos around them. Her body reflected the soft light of the core, and for a moment it was as if the station itself was waiting for her signal. Finally, Lyra gave a sharp nod. "Now, Tom." He pressed the final control panel and the reactor stabilized. The low hum turned into a steady pulse. The emergency alarm slowed and the red light shifted to green. The station was safe. Lyra sank to the floor exhausted. Sweat dripped from her brow and her glow flickered weakly. Tom rushed to her side, kneeling beside her. "You did it," he said, voice full of awe. "We did it," Lyra smiled faintly. "I could not have done it without you." Tom shook his head. "No, you were the one guiding everything. I just helped where I could." For the first time, the workers who had fled the lower decks began to return. They stared in disbelief at the scene before them. The glowing alien and the human engineer, covered in soot, working side by side, saving the station. Even Ren and a few of the others who had mocked Lyra approached cautiously. Ren's eyes widened. I didn't know," he started, then stopped. Words failed him. Lyra simply looked at him. exhaustion in her eyes but no anger. She had no need to speak. Her actions had said everything. The station commander, Rovan, arrived shortly after, followed by other officers. He looked around, impressed despite himself. "I underestimated you, Lyra," he said. "Your actions saved thousands of lives. Your bravery will be remembered." Lyra shook her head lightly, still catching her breath. "I only did what had to be done." Rovan looked at Tom. "And you," he said. "Your collaboration shows the value of trust and courage. You have both proven that teamwork across species is essential." Tom smiled gently at Lyra. "You saved everyone. I'm just glad I was here with you." The news of their heroism spread quickly. By the next day, the entire station knew what had happened. People who once whispered cruelly now looked at Lyra with admiration. She was no longer the outcast. She was the hero of Nova Ring, the one whose glowing skin had led drones, guided workers, and saved the station from destruction. Still, Lyra did not feel proud in the usual sense. She was tired, sore, and worn out. But a quiet joy warmed her chest. For the first time, she realized that her glow, which had caused her so much pain and shame, was not a curse. It was a gift, a tool, something that could help others and perhaps one day inspire them. After the chaos had settled, Tom helped her back to her quarters. The corridor was dim and she rested her head lightly against the wall. "You were incredible," he said softly. "I don't think anyone could have done what you did today." Lyra's glow brightened faintly. "It is easier when someone stands with you," she admitted. Tom shook his head. "No, you were the one everyone followed. I just kept up." She laughed quietly, a sound rare and beautiful. "I suppose we make a good team." He nodded. "The best." That night, as the station returned to normal and the stars shone outside her small window, Lyra sat alone. Her glowing hands rested on her lap, and she thought about the people she had saved. Some who once mocked her would now tell stories of her courage. Others might never understand, but it no longer mattered. Her heart felt light. For the first time, she could imagine a future without fear. She could imagine a place where her light was not a burden but a source of hope. She remembered Tom's words from the first day he had called her beautiful. That phrase had been the first spark of courage inside her, but today had fanned it into a fire. She realized that sometimes courage was not just about fighting danger. Sometimes it was about standing strong, even when the world tried to push you down. And Lyra, glowing softly in her cabin, understood that she would never hide again. Outside, Nova Ring's lights glimmered, reflecting off the metallic walls like stars. The station had survived, and so had Lyra. And somewhere deep in the hum of the machinery, she knew that her light, once mocked, had become the brightest hope for everyone aboard the station. After the crisis on Nova Ring, life slowly returned to normal. The meteor storm had left marks on the station, scorched walls, bent metal, and broken machinery. But thanks to Lyra and Tom, the station had survived without loss of life. Workers began repairing the damage and normal routines resumed, yet the memory of what had happened lingered in everyone's mind. For Lyra, the days following the storm were different. She no longer felt invisible, and whispers of mockery had vanished. Instead, she was greeted with quiet respect. Workers who once ignored her now asked for her guidance on technical repairs. Supervisors consulted her about machinery and drones. Even Ren, the man who had mocked her the most, approached cautiously and said, I'm sorry for what I said before. You were incredible back there." Lyra simply nodded, offering a small smile, her glow faintly shimmering with warmth. Tom continued to work alongside her, as if nothing had changed, though a small smile always lingered on his lips when he saw her. Their teamwork had grown stronger. He would check every repair she completed, sometimes offering advice, sometimes just sharing a quiet moment together. Lyra had begun to look forward to his presence more than she could have imagined. One morning, the station commander, Rovan, called both of them to the observation deck. The floor was polished, and sunlight from nearby stars reflected off the glass walls, casting shimmering patterns onto the metal floor. Several officers stood by, along with some of the workers who had been directly involved in the repairs. "Lyra," Rovan began, his voice formal yet respectful, "I have watched your work and dedication. The courage you showed during the storm was extraordinary. You acted when others feared to move, guided machines with precision, and saved thousands of lives. Your actions have set a new standard for all aboard Nova Ring." Lyra's hands trembled slightly, but she stood tall. "Thank you, sir. I only did what needed to be done." Rowan nodded. That is exactly why you are exceptional. I would like to officially recognize your efforts. Effective immediately, you will have a new position overseeing repairs in the lower decks and assisting all technical teams as needed. You will also have priority access to resources and tools. Lyra blinked, stunned. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, Rowan replied. Your work speaks louder than words. Tom smiled at her from the side, his quiet encouragement giving her strength. After the ceremony, workers began gathering near the observation deck, bringing small gifts and tools, leaving notes of thanks. One young mechanic handed her a small sculpture made from spare drone parts. Another placed a box of Earth chocolate near her feet. Every gesture reminded Lyra that the station had changed. People no longer feared or mocked her. They admired her courage and skills. That evening, as she returned to her cabin, she found a note slipped under her door. The handwriting was familiar. You are a light that cannot be dimmed. Thank you for showing us the way. Tom. She held the note close, her glow brightening slightly. For the first time, she felt a deep warmth, not from her light but from her heart. She smiled softly and whispered, He sees me. The next day, Tom arrived at her workshop carrying a new project. The central drones need upgrades, he said, setting down a toolkit. I thought we could do it together. Lyra looked at him, smiling. Of course. I couldn't do it without you. He shook his head. You could. I just like being here with you. Her glow brightened. You always say the right things. Tom laughed softly. I only tell the truth. They worked together side by side, upgrading drones, programming flight paths, and testing responses. The machines moved faster, reacted smarter, and performed more reliably than ever before. The lower decks, once dull and silent, now buzzed with energy and life. Lyra's presence made it more than just a workplace. It had become a place of hope, a place where anyone could see that courage and kindness mattered more than appearances. Word of Lyra's bravery spread beyond the station. Traders from distant planets visited, curious to meet the glowing hero of Nova Ring. Scientists requested her guidance on drone programming, and even a small group of young Vereen apprentices asked if she could teach them. Lyra, who had once hidden her glow and stayed away from everyone, now found herself surrounded by people eager to learn and work with her. One afternoon, as she worked on a new drone prototype, Tom appeared at the entrance holding a small cup of warm drink. I thought you might need this, he said, handing it to her. She took it, smiling softly. Thank you. He leaned against the wall, watching her work. You've changed everything here, Lyra. Everyone sees it now. Even those who doubted you. Lyra paused, her hands resting on the drone. It doesn't feel real, she admitted. I spent so many years hiding. I thought no one would ever care. Tom stepped closer. They do care. You've shown them the truth. That courage and heart matter more than appearances. And I care too. Her glow pulsed warmly. She had never imagined anyone would look at her this way, beyond her skin, beyond her glow, and see her for who she truly was. She felt a flutter in her chest she could not name. That evening, the station held a small celebration. The damaged decks had been repaired, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter. Workers brought gifts, shared stories, and for once Lyra felt truly included. She walked through the corridors, her glow soft and steady, and people greeted her with respect and smiles. Tom stayed beside her, holding her hand lightly. I think they finally understand, he whispered. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. They see what you've always seen. The celebration continued late into the night. Music played and drones performed light shows along the ceilings of the repaired decks. Lyra watched them with quiet joy. For so long she had believed her light was a curse, something that made her alone. Now she realized it was a gift. A gift that had saved lives, inspired people, and finally allowed her to belong. When the music quieted and the celebration ended, she and Tom walked to the observation deck. The stars outside glimmered brighter than ever, and the station hummed softly around them. You know, Tom said quietly, I think you've changed the entire station. People respect and admire you. You've become a symbol. Lyra looked at him. It feels strange. Being admired. I never wanted that. I only wanted to survive. Tom took her hand, his fingers warm against hers. You did more than survive. You showed them the meaning of courage, kindness, and strength. That is something no one can take away. Her glow brightened, reflecting off the glass walls. I never thought my light could mean so much, she admitted. He smiled gently. I saw it from the start. They stood together in silence for a while, watching the stars. The hum of the station was soft around them. Lyra realized that she had finally found a place where she belonged, a place where her glow was a symbol of hope, not shame. Finally, she turned to him and whispered, "Thank you, Tom. For everything. For seeing me when no one else did." Tom smiled, his eyes gentle and kind. "No, Lyra, you showed me too. You reminded me why humans and aliens can do great things when they trust each other. You taught me that light comes from within, and you have the brightest light I've ever seen." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with her glowing skin. She looked at him, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe that she could be more than an outcast. She could be someone who inspired others, someone who mattered. The two of them stood there quietly, hand in hand, watching the stars. Nova Ring, once a place of whispers and fear, was now a place of hope, courage, and respect. And at the heart of it all was a glowing alien woman who had learned to shine, not for others, but for herself. Lyra realized that the human who had first called her beautiful had not only changed her life, but had also helped the station see the value of kindness, courage, and understanding. She felt a sense of peace she had never known. The stars outside sparkled, reflecting the light she carried inside. For the first time, Lyra understood that being different was not a weakness. Her glow was a part of her strength, and with Tom by her side, she knew she could face anything the universe might send her way. As the night settled over Nova Ring, the station hummed quietly. The repaired decks, the shining stars, and the calm corridors all reflected a new beginning. Lyra's light glowed softly, steady and warm, a beacon of hope for everyone aboard, and standing beside her, Tom whispered once more, "You are truly beautiful, Lyra." She smiled, her heart glowing brighter than ever, knowing that finally, she had found her place in the universe. The station was alive. The people were inspired, and a new light had risen, one that would never be dimmed.